What's up everyone, and welcome to today's Kinstretch class. Kinstretch is a body enhancement system that increases flexibility and usable range of motion. Today's focus is going to be a deep dive on C.A.Rs. C.A.Rs stands for controlled articular rotations, and this is the foundation to all joint training. So what C.A.Rs will teach us is what the maximum capacity of any specific joint can do. So we're gonna roll through and we're gonna do in between 2 and 3 different positions for each joint C.A.R. So for a brief overview, the shoulder and the hip, we will do 3 different base positions today. So we'll do the hip C.A.R and do the shoulder C.A.R from 3 different positions. All the other joints, we will do from 2 positions, the wrist and ankle, just 1, okay? Now, class is gonna start. We don't need any props today, by the way. So just a floor, and that is all we need. We're gonna cover irradiation. Irradiation is a full body tension that we're gonna use to isolate parts of the body. So we're gonna start by building some tension in the body, and we're gonna go from 0 to 100%. So I'm gonna stand with my feet hip distance apart. I'm gonna slightly roll those shoulders back. I'm gonna squeeze my fists together, and then I'm gonna slowly puff up my forearms. So squeezing the forearms, squeezing the shoulder blades. I start to suck in the abdomen, squeeze the butt, squeeze the quads, try and grip the ground with the toes. Pull that ground apart. Now we're gonna turn up that tension. We're probably at about 40 to 50% right now. Meet me at 60%. Keep turning it up. You're gonna feel that heat building, that tension building. 70%, 80%, keep going, 90%. This should be like you're about to get kicked as hard as you can. And 100%, hold it for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bring it down. Now, throughout our C.A.Rs, we are gonna use that tension to isolate. So for one example, before we get going, let's say I was trying to push my shoulder at 100%, but I only have tension through my body at say 50 to 60%. The shoulder C.A.R is gonna look like this. Right? Which is not what we want. We want a nice clean shoulder C.A.R. So the goal when we're using C.A.Rs or radiation in general is we have a higher percentage through the blocking area. So through the core, through the glutes, than in the shoulder. So my core is at 100, my arm's at 95. And that is how I'm gonna achieve the isolation. Cool. So here we go. We're gonna start in the neck, and we're gonna start standing. We're gonna do 3 reps standing, and then we're gonna get onto all 4s, and we'll do 3 reps there. So I'm gonna stand tall. I'm gonna start with chin to chest. Then I'm gonna scrape the chin along the collarbone, looking over my right shoulder, and I'll hit a lockout point. Once I reach that lockout point, I'm gonna drop the right ear behind the shoulder. I'm gonna circle around, pull my head high out of my shoulders as I look at the ceiling, over to the left side, chin comes to shoulder, and then I scrape the chin along the collarbone. That's 1/2, and we reverse that direction. Scrape along the collarbone, look over that left shoulder, drop the ear behind the shoulder, looking up towards the ceiling, pull the head high, looking over to that right shoulder, and scrape. Good. 2 more just like that. Now, if you're experiencing any pinching on the closing side, so on the side you're moving towards, if you're getting any pinching, just navigate around the pinch. So rather than pushing through it, we're gonna stop, reduce the range of motion, and then continue on when the pinch is no longer. Good, we should be finishing with 2. Last one, scraping along the collarbone, looking over the shoulder, dumping the head behind, chin comes to left shoulder, we scrape that collarbone. Now, biggest pain-free range we can take, finishing up, chin comes to shoulder, and we scrape along that collarbone. Now we're gonna drop into tabletop. So now what this is gonna do is going to change the challenge. So you'll feel as you do this, it's gonna be really easy to go into flexion and challenging to go into extension. So extension is the added challenge. Now we're gonna go through 2 in each direction in this base position. My chin comes to chest. I scrape the chin along the collarbone. Now this transition is gonna feel a little funny. I'm gonna drop the right ear behind the shoulder, and then I'm gonna look up, which is really like looking forward. I'm gonna circle around, chin comes to left shoulder, and then I tuck the chin, looking down at the ground, and I scrape. Reversing directions, scraping along that collarbone, drop the ear, we look straight forward, chin comes to right shoulder, we scrape along the collarbone, that's 1 each. circling around, hitting that lockout, looking forward, chin comes to left shoulder. We scrape along the collarbone, reversing directions, looking over that left shoulder, looking forward, long neck, chin comes to shoulder, and we scrape. Good. Now, while we're here, we're gonna go into the scapula. So the scapula is the shoulder blades. They live on the back of the rib cage. They move in this kind of circular 3D motion around the rib cage, right? Because the rib cage is rounded. So that is the movement, but I like to cue it as a square because it makes sure we get all those corners and the kind of the edges and outskirts, the fringe area. But we're gonna do it with our hands on the ground. So the first part of the move, I'm just gonna try and drop the chest down to the ground and pinch the shoulder blades together. Now you notice the elbows wanna bend. Try and keep those elbows straight. Then we're gonna go back and we're gonna try and pull the shoulders up towards the ears like you're shrugging. Then you're gonna push the ground and the shoulders come forward. Keep them up though. So still like you're shrugging. Then you're gonna pull the shoulders down and forward and you're gonna sink back and down. Good. We're gonna do 3 in one direction, then 3 in the other. We elevate and squeeze together in the back. We push forward and up. We go down and forward, and then we go down and back. 2, 1 more. Up and back, forward and up, down and forward, and then squeeze on the back. Now we reverse. So down and back, or excuse me, down and forward. Up and forward, up and back. Good. See how I'm kind of taking that square, down and back, hit that corner, forward and down, up and forward. We have 1 more, down and back, or excuse me, up and back, down and forward, up and forward. Awesome. Now we're gonna hold our arms down by our side. So this is probably one you're more familiar with. So now that we've done them with the arms out in front of us, so for example, that'd be a really good one to do before like a bench press day or a push-up day when you're getting warmed up. Now we're gonna go elbows straight. We're gonna do 2 in each direction. Find the seam on the side of your pants. We're gonna go down and forward, up and back, down and back. Good. 1 more, down and forward, up and back, down and back, and reverse, up and back, up and forward, down and forward, down and back, up and back, up and forward, down and forward, down and back. Good. Now we're gonna head into the shoulder. So for the shoulder, first one we're gonna take is gonna be standing since we're already here. So with the shoulder, we're gonna create full body tension, so we're not gonna rotate. And then the first thing we're gonna focus on is the external and internal rotation. So I'm gonna have you bring both arms out in front of you. Okay, and then we're gonna rotate the thumbs towards each other. That's gonna be internal rotation. No matter where the arm is at, that sensation of rolling in towards midline is always internal, right? In towards midline, internal. And then external is the opposite way. So practice kind of rolling back and forth. Perfect. Internal, external. Okay? The whole first half of the shoulder car is external. I'm gonna go external rotation, the palm is forward. Then I'm gonna sweep up and around, and then I bring up overhead. Now that I'm overhead, you kind of feel that you're stuck here. It's like I can't keep going. I can kind of like sweep to the side, but that's not what we want to do. We pull straight back. From here, we go internal, right? Thumb towards midline, internal. Excuse me, internal. And then I'm going to squeeze the arm back behind me. The palm faces up towards the ceiling, and then the top of the hand comes by the leg. Now I work it backwards. Up and back, it hits a lockout point. I'm going to go external rotation away from the body. Circle up and around, palm faces back, and I come down and across. That's 1. Let's do 2 more. External rotation, I come up and across. I hit up overhead, internal rotation, squeeze the arm back behind me. Top of the hands by the side, I press back, I hit a wall. External rotation buys us more space in the joint. Shoulder comes up overhead, and we come down and across. 1 more. External rotation, up overhead, wring out the joint, as much rotation as you can get. Top of the hand comes by the leg, up and back, external, and we finish down and across. Beautiful. Okay, other side now. So I'm gonna go external rotation, palms forward. I sweep across the body, and then I hit flexion. I try and go bicep right by the ear. From here, I'm gonna corkscrew that arm in the shoulder, internal rotation, without doing this motion. Okay, shoulder stays down. Then I'm gonna squeeze the arm back behind, palm faces out away from the body, and then I work it backwards. External rotation, coming up into that same position, and then down and across. That's 1, 2 more. Shoulder external into flexion. Meet me here. internal rotation, squeeze it down and back. Good, up and back. Like you're serving, open palm, and finish around. We have one more, here we go. Boom, core is engaged, no rotating through the body. Beautiful, just that shoulder joint, and finish up. Now we're gonna move into our second base position for the shoulder, which is gonna be side lying. For side lying, we're gonna start on the right side, and I'm gonna come down on my side like this, okay? So I'm gonna prop myself up on my forearm. It's just comfy to do that. I'm totally fine. Actually, yeah, I'll do it like this. I'm gonna lay down. I'm good either way. You can do it either way, whatever you like. So now we've got a different challenge here, and you'll feel it as you go through the shoulder car. We're gonna get right into it. So external still the same. Palm rotates up. We're gonna do 2 of these, by the way. Palm rotates up. I'm gonna hit my hand to the ground. I'm gonna scrape it along the ground for as long as I can, and then I bring the bicep right by the ear. Good. From here I go internal rotation. It feels kind of funny, but that same movement, we rotate the hand away, or excuse me, in towards midline, palm faces up. Then we're gonna circle around. Now, I had the urge to rock forward because I wanted to redistribute my weight. Don't do that. Fight it. The hand comes down by the side, palm faces away. We lift up and back, just like if we were standing. We'll hit a lockout point. Then we go external rotation. Now the palm faces up towards the ceiling. We circle around in deflection, and then we bring the hand back to the ground and finish. That's one. We have one more. Circling around, we scrape along the ground as long as we can. Keep the elbow straight, palm faces back. I'm gonna rotate the hand, face the ceiling, face the back wall, face the ceiling again. Good. So top of the hands by the leg, palms facing up. I press back, external rotation, sweeping through flexion, and we finish. Cool. Now we're gonna flip to the other side. Bingo. And we're gonna do that exact same thing. So palm faces up, or external rotation. So we rotate the arm away from the body. I'm gonna bring the pinky to the ground. I'm gonna scrape along the ground all the way up through flexion. Good. Put my head down. Once I hit flexion, internal rotation, palm faces back behind us. And then I continue to try and rotate as I push the arm behind. Top of the hand comes by the leg. Lifting up and back, external rotation, swivel that arm in the socket, pulling up into that flexion, and then I touch the ground and finish. That's one. One more. I can't get comfy with my head. Well, I can, but I keep switching. External rotation, flexion overhead, internal, sweeping around, top of the hand by the leg, lifting up and back, sweep around, palm faces back behind us. We bring the hand to the ground and we finish. Awesome. Cool. And for our third and final base position for the shoulder, we're going to take it from tabletop. So tabletop is going to make flexion, or this position, the most challenging. So I really like to use this base position on like an overhead pressing day or a pull-up day, something like that. Or if you're a, I don't know, maybe shot putter, that might be a good option as well, or a swimmer. So I'm gonna come onto all fours. Now, all the same rules apply. It's the same exact movement. We're just changing the rest of the body. So I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna kind of lift onto one hand. I like to make a fist for this one, and I'm gonna rotate my palm to face forward, which is the thumb rotating away, external. I'm gonna come up and across, and then keeping the elbow straight, I pull into flexion. Now you'll feel it's heavy. Arm's heavy, just the weight of it. Good, and then we go internal rotation, so the palm rotates in towards mid, or the thumb rotates in towards midline, but the palm faces away. I squeeze up and back. Top of the hand comes right by my side. Once I tap the ground, I reverse. Palms facing away from me, lifting up, hit the lockout, external rotation, into flexion, and then back down and across. Good, we have one more. Now, one thing to watch out for is the body is gonna wanna open up like this. So I'm actively trying to push the working shoulder down to the ground to keep my shoulders square. I hit that external, rotate, palm faces up to the ceiling, and then out to the side, lifting up and back, external flexion, and back down. Perfect. Now we're on to the other side. I'll face straight forward just so you get a different view, but we're doing the same thing. So I'm gonna make a fist. I'm gonna go external rotation, which is the thumb rotating away. I come up and across into that flexion position. We go internal rotation, palm faces up, pushing as high to the ceiling as I can, and then top of the hand comes by the leg. We lift up and back again as high as I can get it. Keep that elbow straight. Then we rotate the thumb to face up towards the ceiling. We sweep around, palm faces to the ceiling, and then we come down and across. We have one more. Up into flexion, internal rotation, sweeping around, palm faces up to the ceiling, hit that extension, top of the hand comes by the leg, lifting up and back, big circle without letting that body twist, and finish there. Beautiful. Now for spine, we're just gonna do a linear segmentation and then a spine car, so we'll get it two different ways. We always wanna use linear first. The way the vertebrae are stacked, any movement we do with the spine has an element of flexion. So you've got vertebrae that stack more or less right on top of each other, and then they have these little facets, they're called. They're little bones off the back, like wings. So if the spine wants to rotate, it needs to take flexion to clear space for the rotation. Or even if I go into extension like this, where you'd say, no, Matt, it doesn't do that. We translate forward and then into extension, or go into flexion and then translate into extension. Yada, yada. Bunch of jargon, just wanted to dive in for a second. So I'm in tabletop. Now, each of these movements, we're gonna do 3 full segmentations, are gonna start in the pelvis. So I'm gonna start in extension, so I'm arching my whole back. So my head's up high, my butt's up high, the middle of my back is sagging. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start in the pelvis. So imagine someone's grabbing your rib cage and pulling it forward, okay? So that's what you're trying to hold. Okay, so someone's pulling the rib cage forward, and then you're trying to tuck the pelvis. Tuck it, tuck it, tuck it. Then when you can't hold that pulling sensation, you allow the rib cage to go up towards the ceiling, you drop the head. Good. Now you imagine somebody's punching you in the rib cage here, and keep that punch tension. You start in the pelvis, you arch the low back. When you can't hold the punch tension anymore, you finish into extension. That's 1. Again, someone's pulling your rib cage, tuck your pelvis first. Once you can't hold it anymore, then you go into that flexion. You're receiving that punch, pelvis first, and it slowly bleeds through extension. Good, that's 2, 1 more. Tucking that pelvis in through flexion, and then pelvis back into extension. Perfect. Now, I'm gonna sit on my heels for this spine car, but you can also grab a seat on a bench like this. Ooh, almost lost it. So you can sit down, or you can do it kneeling, tall kneeling, anything you fancy. Okay, so I'm seated here. I'm gonna again start in the pelvis, just like we practiced. So I'm gonna tuck my pelvis underneath me, like I'm trying to hide my butt. You can't see it, okay? Tuck it under. Good? And then I'm gonna slowly round up the spine to full flexion. Now, do you notice how I'm rounding through the spine, but I'm not leaning forward? So there's a difference there, right? This is in my spine, this is in my hips. So difference, we're looking for the spine here. Try and touch the rib cage down to the waistband, and then we're gonna rotate to the right. So I'm not leaning really big to the right. I'm staying centered over my weight. I'm just rotating. From there, I'm gonna start in the pelvis, and I'm gonna transition the pelvis the other direction. So like I'm getting tall. I get tall, I arch my back, I circle around to the other side, start in the pelvis, and unwind through flexion. So it's the exact same thing as flexion and extension that we were doing in tabletop, but now with rotation as we transition, okay? So I'm here, rotate to the left, pelvis untucks, arch the back, through extension. Once you get here, you can't rotate anymore, I'm stuck. And then pelvis tucks, and it frees up movement, unwind. That's 1, we got 1 more. Rotate to the right, pelvis extends, bleeds up into the mid-back, rotating, pelvis starts the movement, flexion bleeds up the spine. 1 more half, rotating to the left, pelvis, mid-back, upper back, rotation, pelvis, mid, upper, and finish. Bingo. Cool. Okay, now that we did spine, we're gonna do elbows and wrists, and then we'll get into the lower body. So for elbows, we're gonna do it 2 ways, okay? So start here at the top of a bicep curl, okay? Now we can rotate through the elbow. A lot of people don't know that, but we rotate in the elbow. It doesn't just hinge. So we are gonna start by just making tension through the hands so the wrist isn't moving as much, and we're gonna rotate side to side as much as we can get. Think like if I've got a dirty dish towel, I'm just gonna wring it out one way and then wring it out the other. Now, I'm gonna slowly, as I do this, open my elbow. Now, one thing you don't want is this happening, right? So I don't want movement of the upper arm. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll those shoulders back, I'm gonna squeeze the arms into the side, and then there's my block, okay? Then I'm gonna slowly open, again, trying to get that full rotation. Don't go too fast. I always get carried away with these. Once you get to full extension of the elbow, you're gonna slowly bring it back up. We'll do one more of these. Good. This is always good to do before a big push or pull day, any upper body day really. I will also do these with weights to do a bicep curl. So just a different way. I'm loading the bicep, but with the elbow in mind. So different way to view strength training. Cool. Now we're gonna go into triceps. So we're gonna do that exact same thing. You already know how to do it. We're gonna create the tension. You're gonna squeeze the arms by the side, but now you're gonna hinge straight forward. So what did we do? We changed our relationship to gravity, which loads different tissue differently. So I'm gonna slowly start to rotate. Good, and then I'm gonna get those arms all the way out, slowly pulling back in. Good, we're gonna do one more of them. Keep it rotating. Ooh, my triceps are burning. Hope yours are too. Nice and slow, get that rotation. Bingo. Whew. Now we're gonna go wrist. So wrist, pretty easy in theory. We need to isolate the wrist, which is extremely hard to do, and it has less movement than you want it to be honest. So I like to take one knee. I'm gonna bring the forearm, or the back of the forearm on the knee, and then I'm gonna bring my other hand and I'm gonna grab my forearm because I can't control it otherwise. My palm's gonna stay open the entire time. You're gonna notice you're gonna wanna do like these cupping sensations and these ugly pulls with your fingers, but don't do it, okay? Just reduce the range, really fight for that. Grab the forearm, palms open. Now I'm gonna pull my wrist into extension, which is back like this. I'm gonna circle around, just doing the biggest circle I can. So I like to imagine I've got a pen or a pencil taped to the end of my finger, and I'm gonna try and draw the biggest circle I can with my index finger. Good, and you'll feel that palm wanting to kind of cramp up and make that cupping sensation. Fight it straight, and you're just drawing that biggest circle. We'll do 2 or 3 to each direction. And that is just burning. Whatever you do, keep the palm flat. And switching, so same setup. Up on the knee, forearm is grabbed, hand is open, and we are gonna go 3, yeah, let's call it 3. Let's go 3 in each direction. Oof, and I feel that. So one thing I notice is my left hand is much worse than my right hand, which makes sense, right? I'm right-handed. I use that right hand way more. So Matt, I need to start doing my things with my left hand. Note to self. Good. After that next one, we will wrap it up there. Ooh, okay. Awesome, guys. Now we get to move into the hips. All right, for the hips, we have 3 different base positions. Our first base will be standing, just like this. I'm gonna use a wall, but you're welcome to use poles if you do have them nearby or anything to support you. The second will be from tabletop, which is on all fours right here. And the third will be side lying, which is actually one of my sleepy favorites. So we're gonna cover all 3 of those. We're gonna do 3 standing, 2 in the other positions. All right, so when doing a standing hip car, we are first focused on external and internal rotation, right? So this is the main function of the hip, or the most important function we wanna maintain. So when we're going through the hip car, prioritize it. I'm gonna stand here. I'm gonna go into external rotation, okay? So boom, think of external as like I'm trying to hit a hacky sack with the inside of my foot. I'm gonna sweep up and then I pull my knee as high as I can without rounding the back or tucking the pelvis. Now, I'm gonna pull that knee out, still in external rotation, and you're gonna notice the pelvis is gonna wanna come with you. It's joining in on the party, but don't let it. Block off the pelvis, and then you're gonna push the knee down and you're gonna pull the outside of the ankle up. Now, you'll feel like a cramping sensation in the hip. That is good. Just stay right there. Now we're gonna push that leg kind of just back and around as high as we can keep it. Then we're gonna squeeze the knee in towards the middle of the leg, but keeping the foot wide. I'm gonna push back when I do this without arching my back. I'm gonna open out and external rotation. Good. Okay, we're gonna do 2 more. No, I said 1. 2 more. Okay, external rotation, open out, keep that pelvis in line, drop the knee, don't let that butt wink, and then drop the knee down. We press back, we open up, drop the foot and sweep. One more, out, internal rotation, push the leg around, push back, external rotation, and then close the door. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna do the other side now. So all the same cues, all the same focuses, obviously, but the left side. So I'm left-handed, or excuse me, I'm right-handed, I'm right-footed. So this left side has always been a little bit tighter for me. I'm gonna start with that external rotation. So imagine hitting that hacky sack. Pelvis is square and tucked. I'm gonna open out to the side. I'm gonna rotate the leg internally, drop the inside of the knee, pull the outside of the foot. Push back and around, squeeze the knee to the supporting leg, then I push back. I externally rotate and I sweep around. That's one, let's keep it rolling. Internal, squeeze the knee, trying to get that hip extension back, open out, external rotation. One more, cores engaged, rotate in, squeeze the knee, press back, tension, slow grind, external rotation. And that is 3, just like that. Okay, base position number 2 is gonna be tabletop. The main thing with tabletop, I'll show you from the back for a second, is the level of the hips, okay? So one thing I like to imagine is I've got a nice glass of whiskey. Boom, I like whiskey, right on my lower back, okay? And I can't spill it. So I don't really care about how big my hip car is at this point, right? I just wanna keep that glass of whiskey from spilling. So I'm gonna take the same movement of the hip car, but with no pelvic tilt. A lot of times when I show people this one, this is what they look like. Right? Do you see the difference here of the hip car to the hip circle? I don't know what you want to call it, but the wiggle, essentially. Now I'm going to give it to you from the side. So I'm going to be in tabletop. I'm going to actually want to push into slight flexion of the spine. It's just easier to block off. So I'm going to push my hands into the ground. I'm going to suck the abs in, kind of like I'm getting that punch delivered. And then I'm gonna try and touch the knee to the outside of the elbow while I'm sweeping the inside of the foot up, right? Because external rotation. If I was standing, that's this position, okay? So I sweep up, and then I open out. Now, you don't have as much as you think. And then imagine there's a pencil on the bottom of the knee, and you're gonna just draw a circle on the ground as big as you can, and then you're gonna stab yourself with the pencil. You're gonna press up, big circle with the pencil, and then knee comes to that elbow, and bring it down. Good, that's 1. Open out, circle that knee around, squeeze knee to midline, pressing back, external rotation, knee to elbow. Last one, open out, circle that leg around, keep it high, squeeze the knee into the leg, press back, circle around, and rest. Awesome. Now we're gonna do the other side. So I'll show you from the front view now, just so you get a different way to look at it. I'm gonna start here, abs engaged. I circle up, or excuse me, I flexion and external rotation, so knee to elbow. Open out to the side what I can. So as I open up, I'm like pushing this hip down as well. Then I circle that knee around like I'm drawing a big circle, and I tap the knee into that supporting leg, press back, sweep the leg around, try and get the knee higher than the foot, and finish. One more, open out, big circle, abs engaged, fight the rotation, and finish that hip car. Perfect. So you saw I was doing that with one hand. You can also do that as well. An added challenge could even be a beast or like a elevated quadrupedal position, which would look like toes tucked like here and going through the hip car like that, right? Or you could get crazy and lose some balance there. Okay, last one is side lying hip car. So I'm gonna be side lying here. I'm gonna prop myself up. So same car, different relationship to gravity, different challenge, okay? So I'm gonna sweep the inside of the foot against the ground while trying to pull the knee as high as I can. From here, I'm gonna open out wide, okay? This makes this move easier, where in tabletop, this move was the hardest. Now I'm gonna internally rotate. So I'm gonna rotate that leg in, inside knee drops away from the head while the outside of the foot pulls up. And I'm gonna push the leg back behind me, and I'm gonna squeeze the knee down to the ground. I open up, externally rotate, so I'm like taking that foot and sweeping it through the movement window, tap it to the ground and bring it down. Good, we're gonna do one more. One thing to watch out for is the pelvis, again here. So as I sweep up, good, external rotation and flexion, now I open out. It is really easy to go like this, right? Which is not what we wanna do. Really, when we do this, the pelvis is rotating on this bottom femur, right? So we wanna keep the pelvis stacked and then we hit that end range. So mine is only about right here as I hit that rotation. I squeeze in, open up, external rotation, and that's all I have. One thing you can do is you can use a block here. So I'll use it on this side. Okay, so I'm gonna go, I'll give myself a little bit of grace here. It is there. My external rotation and flexion. I'm gonna open out to the side. And you can already see, right, I bumped that roller. It's really hard to keep the pelvis stacked. I rotate, I squeeze the knee down, keep the foot high, press back. Inside of the foot comes to the ground. More. Open wide. Internal, push the leg. Press. External rotation, sweep around. And rest. Bingo. Cool. We are making our way through. We just have two more, knee and ankle. So the knee functions a lot like the elbow does, okay? So its main function is to extend and bend, but it actually has a good bit of rotation, okay? And the rotation is really key for longevity and knee health. So we're gonna start by pulling the femur up into the chest. Now, if you can't do this, you can do it seated on a bench as well, right? So I could be seated and I could be rotating that tibia. It's just harder not to use the femur. So I do like to be on the ground if you can be. I'm gonna hug that knee into the chest. I'm gonna flex the foot. Okay, and then I'm just gonna slowly rotate side to side. Now I find, especially if you're just learning these, it really helps to grab the shin. So grab the shin and feel it really moving, right? Because the joint's right here. Everything below it should be moving. Everything above it shouldn't be. So I'm gonna rotate side to side, get a couple of those, and you'll find that this ankle wants to do all the movement. So if you can pull that ankle like tightly up into flexion, or dorsiflexion, which is toes towards the shin, it helps lock out or stabilize that joint a little bit, okay? Now we're gonna go into the same thing we did with the elbow where we bend and extend. So I'm rotating through my knee and I'm slowly straightening. Now you'll notice when you get to about 15 to 20 degrees away from straight, oh, I've lost all my rotations, just my ankle now. I'm gonna start heading back in. So as that knee goes completely straight, you do lose your ability to rotate. Boom, staying slow, trying to squeeze, 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 and we will switch when you're ready. Same thing on the other side. I'm gonna pull the femur in, I'm gonna pull the toe up towards the shin. Now I'm gonna get that rotation, nice and slow, side to side. Now, when you think about this, whichever side we're rotating is where we wanna pull from. So if I wanna rotate from internal, which is right here, or medial, to a lateral or outside, I'm gonna try and use the outside tissue of the knee. So I'm trying to take this stuff and I'm trying to pull that rotation out of it. Pull, 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 and it gets tight over here. That's a good sign. Now this stuff is lengthened and its job is to pull over to shortened. And that's the mechanisms we want to use or feel more when we're doing that rotation. Same idea here. As we rotate side to side, I'm pulling, then I'm pulling back and forth. Good, getting a couple rotations, a couple hinges. Maybe we'll do one more hinge together. Trying to squeeze out rotation. Once you hit about 20 degrees off of straight, you'll head back down. You'll feel it slowly losing range. Good. Lastly is the ankles. Now, you don't need anything to prop them up on. You can just use the foot. So I take the opposite foot, I prop it underneath the mid calf, and that allows me to work. I will use a roller because I have it. So main thing about the ankle is sit back and take an ankle circle, right? Notice how my whole femur wants to move. Not what we want, okay? We want to lock that quad out, higher radiation through the quad, and then I want to draw the biggest circle I can with that ankle with no movement from the rest of the leg. So when I'm doing these ankle cars, I always use the analogy of making brownies. I hope you've all made a batch of brownies before. If not, that's on the list for tonight. But we want to scrape the edge of the bowl, right? There's brownie batter up on the side, and we're trying to get every bit of batter off that bowl we can. So we're scraping along both directions, and when you're satisfied with that ankle car, go ahead and switch sides. So I'll switch feet, lock out the quad, really squeeze, and then we're drawing massive circles with the ankle, as big as we can get them. Boom, getting every bit of that brownie batter off the edge of that bowl. Big scrapes. Perfect. And that is a wrap on our C.A.Rs deep dive, Kinstretch class. So let me know anything you guys want to see. This is for y'all. So give me a comment, shoot me a message. You can do it in the app, via my website, on Instagram, any way to get it across to me. Let me know what you want to see more of, and I'll make sure to do it. Otherwise, peace out. Until next time.